Hello YouTube, it's Ryan here with Hobbies of Man once again, and today we're going to be talking about Golden Kamuy, Volume 1. This is the first impressions review of Golden Kamuy, and the author here is Satoru Noda, and the publisher is Viz. You can read it on the Viz subscription service if you have it, but you can only read it online, or I guess on an Android phone. You can't read it on the Shonen Jump app in the iPhone, system. Like, you can't read it if you have an iPhone. You have to read it on your computer. So there you go. That's kind of how that works. The demographic is seinen, and the genres here are historical, adventure, and what has been called Japanese-style Western, which is a horrible name because, yes, I understand why they called it a Western, because this is kind of like a historical frontier story, but the genre should not be Western because it doesn't happen in the West, and it doesn't happen in, like, the context of what a Western is, right? Which is the Wild West of the US. So I don't think that really counts. I mean, I guess you could argue, but Hokkaido in this time period was like the Wild West. Sure, but you wouldn't call like a Canadian story where they go find gold or like go hunt animals for pelts a Western, right? So why would you call this Japanese one a Western? I think frontier story is a much better definition of what this is. So there you go. In terms of adaptation, it does have one, and I think it's pretty popular. It has done pretty well. I think season 3 is coming out or has come out recently. I can't remember exactly though. And I know that the manga is about to end, like sometime this weekend or the next. I can't remember exactly when, but it should happen sometime here soon. And the premise here is that you follow Sugimoto, which is a guy that is deemed immortal because he fought in a Japanese war, and I can't remember what war it was. I think it was a Russian-Japanese war, a Russo-Japanese war, and he's a veteran. And now he has finished his service, and he was dishonorably discharged for something he did. I can't remember if they told us what it was. And now he wants to find a pile of gold that was hidden somewhere in Hokkaido. And we learned that the reason that he wants this is because he wants to take care of someone for a friend, but also for himself. And he needs to find this gold so he can pay for all of the stuff that she needs, right? And he also explains to us how he's going to find this. He needs to track down a bunch of criminals who have the map to this location tattooed on their bodies. Which is kind of crazy because it's basically like a hunt for people, and then it will turn eventually into a hunt for gold. So it's really interesting. And along the way, he's joined by this Hokkaido native called Asirpa. She is a young girl, and she's kind of a pretty tomboyish kind of girl by what we understand to be Ainu standards in her own words. And she joins Sugimoto because her father was one of the Ainu people that was slaughtered in order to gain this gold. And so she kind of wants revenge. But she doesn't want to kill anyone. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic there. Sugimoto is a veteran, so he's not opposed to killing anyone. But Asirpa is still a young girl, and she wants to live her life a certain way. And so they kind of are constantly balancing each other out in that sense. So it's really, really good. I actually really, really find it quite enjoyable. I definitely want to buy it physically, but probably not at this time. I'll probably end up reading a bit more, and then if I like it enough, 5 volumes in, I'll definitely buy it physically. There's only 25 volumes in the series as far as I understand, so that's actually pretty easy to achieve, and it's not a gigantic series by any means. So that's good in that sense. The most interesting part of all of this was the cultural aspects of the story. Now, Ainu people are like Japanese aboriginals, kind of, or at least they're like the most equivalent version, right? They're people that are kind of relatively isolated that were from Hokkaido, and during the Edo period or after the Edo period, when Japan was kind of finally becoming a world kind of nation, like a nation that interacted with the world, they started wanting to get into Hokkaido, and they had, to basically subdue these people. Well, I guess they didn't have to, but they did, because, colonizing is kind of how it works. And along the way, they kind of joined them into their culture, kind of, And so Ainu are this kind of, I guess if you're looking at it in American terms, the Ainu are basically Native Americans, and they have very specific and different cultural practices from the rest of Japan. And in this time period, they're kind of seen as lesser, and it's really, really interesting. And I actually like this story quite a bit because I never knew anything about Ainu people. Like, I've had, manga that talked about Ainu people in very general terms, but I'd never seen anything about them that was particularly, well researched. And this manga has a guy that, isn't part of the writing team, but he definitely researches stuff about Ainu people so that they can put it in the story. And that's why I find it interesting, because it's a culturally interesting manga. It shows you cultures that, we probably wouldn't be aware of otherwise, right? So I think it's really, really interesting. And it's really good. And this also kind of correlates to the fact that they called it Japanese Western style story, because yes, you have a Native American that joins forces with a not Native American, and they try to go search for gold in order to gain revenge and become rich so that they can take care of someone. That's a very standard Western type story. However, it should not be called a Japanese style Western. That's a ridiculous name. So it's a frontier story. Okay. And that's all there is to it. It's a really, really good story. Definitely recommend it. I think it's really awesome for a variety of reasons, but most importantly to me, because it is culturally significant. Like, it shows you something about a culture that you wouldn't know otherwise. So yeah, that's all I have to say. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought. And thank you guys very much for watching. See you guys later.